Tonight on Reporting Scotland, the leader of Edinburgh City Council resigns amid a police investigation. Labour's Cammy Day stepped down after being suspended over allegations of inappropriate behaviour. Also on tonight's programme, after more than a decade of civil war, Syrians in Scotland celebrate the end of the Assad regime.
We were very happy and thrilled, happy and having also mixed feelings about the unknown future. But there is nothing worse that we've been through, than what we've been through during the Assad's family dictatorship.
Paramedics step in to support palliative care patients and keep them out of hospital.
Coming up in tonight's sport, it's another big week of European football, and it all gets started tomorrow night when Celtic face Dinamo Zagreb in the Champions League.
Hello, I'm Laura Miller. Welcome to Monday's programme. The leader of Edinburgh City Council, Cammy Day, has resigned. Confirmation of his decision came in a letter to the Chief Executive this afternoon. It follows Councillor Day's suspension by the Labour Party on Saturday, pending the outcome of a police investigation into allegations of inappropriate behaviour. It was reported in a newspaper that he had bombarded Ukrainian refugees with messages, including asking sexually explicit questions. Well, our chief political correspondent, Lindsay Bewes, joins me now. Lindsay, just remind us what's happened then.
Yeah, Laura, these allegations emerged over the weekend. Now, we spoke to one of the refugees who was contacted by Cammy Day. They say he sent them messages via social media and added them on a dating site. They claim he asked questions of a sexual nature and also suggested meeting for wine. Now, the refugee says they were uncomfortable with the contact but felt pressure to respond due to his status, given his status, and they were afraid of his influence. Now, Police Scotland confirmed that they received a report of inappropriate behaviour in October. They say inquiries are ongoing to establish the full circumstances. The force also said they received a report about Cammy Day earlier this year, but no criminality was established in that case. Now, the Ukrainian consulate in Edinburgh has expressed concerns about these reports. On Saturday, Scottish Labour suspended Cammy Day pending investigation, and today he has resigned as council leader. In a statement, he said the recent commentary on his personal life is detracting from the important work the Labour-led council does for the people of Edinburgh. He said it undermines the dedicated efforts of his colleagues and council officers. He said he's yet to be contacted by the police, but he will cooperate fully. And he added that leading the council had been an enormous privilege.
So what happens next then, Lindsay?
Well, this obviously leaves the council here looking for a new leader. Nominations are being sought with a full council meeting due to take place next week. But there's now a big question mark over whether the minority Labour administration can continue. In 2022, they were helped into power with votes from the Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives, despite the SNP being the largest party. Now, there are also questions still being asked about Cammy Day's conduct. He will continue as an independent councillor, but the SNP group are saying his resignation as leader should have come with an apology.
OK, Lindsay in Edinburgh, thank you. Syrians around the world are reacting to the fall of the regime, including those living here. Islamist rebels have taken control of the capital Damascus, with the former President Bashar al-Assad fleeing the country. According to Home Office figures, around 3,300 refugees came to Scotland from Syria between 2014 and 2021. And the end of Assad's rule means many are now considering the possibility of a return home. Gillian Sharp reports.
They're marking the end of the Assad regime by offering a discount to customers today at this Syrian-run bakery in Glasgow. Tasnim Helmi and her family fled the country in 2016. She says they felt very unsafe there, and after taking part in peaceful demonstrations, her dad was imprisoned. They've watched closely the events of the weekend.
We were glued to the TV and the phones in our hands. We were very happy and thrilled, happy and having also mixed feelings about the unknown future. But Sure, there is nothing worse that we've been through, that what we've been through during the Assad's family dictatorship.
For Dr. Manhal al-Nasser, now a lecturer in Glasgow, the weekend's news from his home country has brought a mix of emotions, remembering family times lost during the Assad years.
We lost our nephew, who was killed by an airstrike on our hometown. And a year after that, my sister, his mom, passed away, heartbroken, and I didn't have the chance to just say goodbye or see her. The same, my mother passed away in Lebanon. My other sister passed away in Saudi Arabia.
In Syria itself, rebel groups advanced at rapid speed on the capital in recent days. The future is uncertain. Former President Bashar al-Assad, who once seemed untouchable, has now fled, ending his family's more than 50-year rule of Syria. Celebrating the end of the Assad regime, a crowd gathered in Inverurie this afternoon.
I'm very happy. Like, everyone's safe now in Syria, and everyone happy, can say anything, can walk outside, or nothing can cause them. So I'm so happy for them.
We feel like we have a hope again to see our family. They became safe. They won't bomb them again. We see like a bright future, to be honest.
Being a human rights activist in Syria under Assad was very dangerous, says Munir Mkedi. He left in 2012. Thoughts this last weekend of family back there, including his mother, who he hasn't seen since he left.
We have hope now, maybe to go back to see our people. For example, my mom, I never seen my mom since 2011, and her age now about 94 years old. Three of my brothers just died. I couldn't see them. My sister just last year. We have hope just to go back. We are waiting for the new people who rule the country to see if they keep their promise.
And in Syria itself, a new order is now being defined. Gillian Sharp, reporting Scotland.
More than 1,000 CT scans carried out in Scotland have been reviewed after concerns were raised about the work of one consultant radiologist. The scans were done at hospitals around the country and assessed by a radiologist working for the Scottish National Radiology Reporting Service. It's understood the review found that about 10 patients had potentially been affected. Well, our reporter Katie Hunter has been across this story and is here now. Katie, what more do we know about what's happened here?
Well, CT scans, Laura, create detailed images of inside someone's body, and they can be used to diagnose conditions such as injuries to internal organs or cancer. So, as you said, the scans in question here that we're talking about today, well, they were carried out at hospitals around the country, but they were assessed by one of the central pool of experts working for the Scottish National Radiology Reporting Service between April 2022 and July 2024. Now, BBC Scotland News understands that the review of more than 1,000 scans found that about 10 patients have been potentially affected by this, and those patients will now be contacted by their local NHS boards to discuss any further steps that might need to be taken.
And what has the service had to say in response?
Well, the Scottish National Radiology Reporting Service says that in the past 12 months it's carried out nearly 136,000 reports for patients across the country, and it says it routinely carries out proactive checks, and it was as part of this proactive checking that it identified concerns with the quality of report assessments by a single consultant radiologist who no longer works for the service. It says immediate action was taken and a comprehensive review was conducted as a result. And the service says that it remains steadfast in its commitment to safety, and it will now work closely with all the relevant health boards affected by this to ensure both transparency and support for any of the patients potentially affected.
OK, Katie, thank you. A section of the American airliner brought down over Lockerbie 35 years ago is being transported to the US for the trial of the man accused of making the bomb. Wreckage from the fuselage of Pan Am Flight 103 will form part of the evidence in the case against Abu Aguila Massoud. Our Home Affairs correspondent David Cowan has more.
It's been described as the largest crime scene in history. Wreckage and debris from Pan Am 103 scattered over 845 square miles. But 80% of the shattered airliner was retrieved by search teams and reassembled by air accident investigators. This video, released by Dumfries and Galloway Police in 1989, shows the fragments attached to scaffolding in a huge hangar at Farnborough, with the damage caused by the bomb clearly visible. It exploded in a suitcase in the forward hold, blasting a hole in the plane's outer skin and causing it to break apart at 31,000 feet. It's this section of the plane that's going to the United States. The transfer was requested by American prosecutors who are building their case against Abu Aguila Massoud. When he goes on trial in this court in Washington next year, they might have to go back to square one and prove that the plane was brought down by a bomb in its hold. The man who led the FBI's investigation into Lockerbie says the section of fuselage could be shown to the jury.
If you want to show the enormity, this was horrible. This took this big 747 and split it open. And I think that would really show the jury exactly what happened to that plane. And that may be the reason they're doing that.
Colours! Halt! Last year, the head of Scotland's prosecution service, the Lord Advocate Dorothy Bain, attended a service at Arlington National Cemetery in Washington, marking the 35th anniversary of the bombing. The Crown Office says it understands that what's left of Pan Am 103 will hold significance for relatives of the 270 victims. For that reason, they've been informed of the plan to move the section of fuselage to the United States. Agents from the FBI have been in Scotland this year interviewing witnesses in advance of Massoud's trial. As things stand, it's scheduled to go ahead next May, but delays can't be ruled out. Prosecutors allege Massoud confessed to making the Lockerbie bomb when he was in jail in Libya in 2012. He's pled not guilty to the charges in Washington. David Cowan reporting Scotland.
To some of the day's other stories now. And a woman has died after she was attacked by a dog in Aberdeen. 41-year-old Michelle McLeod died at the scene in a flat in Forester Hill Road on Saturday evening. Her family say they're devastated by the death of a much-loved mother, daughter and friend to many. The dog, whose breed has not been revealed, has since been euthanised. A woman has admitted killing a 2-year-old boy in a car crash in the Highlands. Ian Mackay from Wick died in hospital several days after the two-car crash on the A99 between Latheron and Wick. Sonia Henderson had been due to go to trial at Wick Sheriff Court, but pleaded guilty to causing death by careless driving. Sentencing has been deferred until next month. And 2 food poverty protesters have been given non-custodial sentences for smearing jam and porridge over a bust of Queen Victoria. Sarah Martin and Hannah Taylor carried out what they described as a demonstration against rising food insecurity at Glasgow's Kelvingrove Art Gallery and Museum in March. They were found guilty to a charge of malicious mischief following a trial at Glasgow Sheriff Court last month. Now, a new study into football's links to dementia has found other outside factors can't be to blame. Researchers at Glasgow University looked at the health records of over 12,000 former professionals, comparing them with those of similar age in the general population. It comes after studies revealed former players are 3.5 times more likely to die from the disease. One former player says the evidence is now so compelling, things have to change. Here's our Sports News correspondent, Chris McLaughlin.
The links between football and dementia were highlighted over 5 years ago when data showed former pros were more likely to die from the disease. The man leading the research has been digging further, checking to see if other issues rather than football could be to blame.
There's always been a question about whether other dementia risk factors or other things that we have in our lives, blood pressure problems, maybe drinking too much, might also contribute to it. And so that's what we did. We looked at these other risk factors for dementia among our professional footballers, and in short what we found was these other risk factors don't appear to be contributing to dementia.
Charlie Gallagher's kick went to the head of Billy McNeil, the winning goal.
The issue was highlighted with players like former Celtic captain Billy McNeil and others who died from the disease. But did they die because of the way they played the game, repeatedly heading the ball? It's a question on the minds of former professionals today, but some think the conversation should now move on.
The thing that's interesting for me is that we're getting to a point where we're going to need to start looking for solutions. That's where I think we're getting to, and I think because of this latest news and information, then we need to start looking for an answer. And I think that's where we should be focusing our attention.
Scottish football has made moves to make the game safer on the back of the research. Kids under 12 don't head the ball in training, and professionals are also limited before and after a match. Tonight, the Scottish FA said they will continue to monitor and adapt its heading guidance based on new research and evidence. We will continue to participate in essential ongoing research in this area, they said. What researchers are doing here is crossing their T's and dotting their I's to make sure that nothing else is happening with their previous findings. And what they're saying is this really does look like a football problem. So where does that leave us? Are we heading towards a game without heading of the ball? Well, not yet, but what researchers are also saying is this should be treated as an industrial injury. That could lead to compensation, and that would have huge consequences for a game struggling to come to terms with the fact that something appears to be seriously wrong. Chris McLaughlin, reporting Scotland.
The Air Accidents Investigation Branch has said the wreckage of a plane found off the coast of Shetland on Friday belonged to an aircraft that was lost in September last year. The German-registered Cessna was discovered by a Peterhead trawler and brought ashore to Lerwick Harbour yesterday. The light aircraft was travelling from Germany with one person on board when it went missing between Shetland and Norway in September last year.
A light aircraft recovered from the North Sea on Friday afternoon was brought ashore in Lerwick yesterday, where human remains were found within. No formal identification has yet taken place. Today, local officers supported by specialist resources are working closely with the Air Accident Investigation Branch and German authorities to investigate the circumstances of the incident.
Now, for people in palliative or end-of-life care, ending up in hospital is often not the best place to be. But until recently, ambulance crews had few options but to take patients to A&E after a 999 call. But with a growing older population, the ambulance service says it's trying to adapt, improving links to hospices and supporting people better at home. Our health correspondent Lisa Summers has this report.
Very kind.
Right. 92-year-old Margaret had a fall at the weekend. Advanced paramedic Pete Madden has been called out to assess her injuries.
I just don't know how it happened. It just instant.
In this case, Margaret will need to go to hospital for x-rays, but it's not always the best place for people to receive care. The ambulance service is trying to adapt to the growing older population. And with 50,000 calls each year from people in end-of-life care, crews are now being trained to help people stay at home if that's where they want to be.
How we look after those people with those life-limiting irreversible conditions was very limited. Going to the emergency department is absolutely the right thing to do on so many occasions, but actually so many occasions it's not and can be quite detrimental. We want to fix everyone, we want to take them to hospital, we want people to survive, but actually being able to recognise that someone is dying and actually to do the right thing to support them in a line with their best wishes, it's just really, really powerful.
Paramedics are also working closely with hospices to improve people's care as they reach the end of their lives.
Pain, that sounds like it's going to be high priority, isn't it?
Avoiding unnecessary hospital admissions and having direct contact from a hospice is important to Bob Miller, who has terminal cancer.
I'd hate to think, seriously, I'd hate to think, that this didn't exist.
I mean, it's invaluable. It's been invaluable to us. Mm-hmm. You don't really want to think about it at the beginning, but I think once you've had the terminal diagnosis, you kind of then start counting down and then thinking, right, what do we need to do? What plans do we need to put in place?
The Scottish Government acknowledges palliative care services need to improve, but a new strategy on how it plans to do that is overdue. Hospices welcome the links with the ambulance service, but they too are stretched.
I appreciate that there are huge financial pressures on the NHS at present, but I feel that palliative care needs greater priority within that. This is not something that is optional for people. It should be a basic human right, like obstetric care when you begin your journey in life. You also need to know that you can get the same high quality care at the end of your life.
Services are stretched and demand is ever growing. But ambulance crews say they're already seeing fewer people admitted to hospital with better care closer to home. Lisa Summers reporting Scotland.
OK, let's get tonight's sports news now with Lewis. More European football.
Absolutely, Laura, yes. It would normally be kind of exactly, we're enjoying it, aren't we? It's kind of getting to crunch time as well. It's a slightly longer group stage, so few games to go, but big ones as well for teams to try and reach the knockouts. It's going to be good. Thanks, Laura. Hello there, yes. Well, the Celtic manager, Brendan Rodgers, has challenged his players to take what he calls the next step in his side's quest to reach the knockout stage of the Champions League after a bright start to the competition. The Premiership leaders trained at Celtic Park this morning before flying to Croatia, where they take on Dinamo Zagreb tomorrow. Travelling Celtic supporters have been warned to be vigilant in the city amid fears that they could be targeted by local fans. Rodgers' side have 8 points from 5 games, and the Northern Irishman is hoping they can improve on the draw they picked up away to Atalanta.
You know that an away win at any level, but in particular in the Champions League, is it's a difficult challenge, but it's one that gives a real good feeling. So for us, yeah, it's the next step. Like you say, you go to Atalanta and you defend how we did there. That gives you a big confidence to know that you can go into any stadium and defend well. And for us, we hope that we can then bring our attacking game alongside that. And we know that when we do that, it gives us an opportunity to get that win.
The Rangers manager, Philippe Clement, says his side are in a really good place after watching them beat Ross County and reduce the gap to second-placed Aberdeen. James Tavernier scored the pick of the bunch in a 3-0 win for Rangers, who are now unbeaten in 7 games and have won their last 4. Next up, the Europa League on Thursday and a visit from former Celtic manager Ange Postecoglou and his Tottenham Hotspur side.
Spurs are going to be a really big test. This team never played at that level against that kind of opponent, so I'm really interested in how we will react, how we will make our decisions on the pitch, because it needs to be faster than in the league games. And I think we're in a really good place in that way, but we need to prove it on Thursday against one of the better teams in the Premier League, so it's one of the better teams in the world.
Well, Spurs don't have their troubles to seek, and Ange Postecoglou will return to Glasgow on the back of a home defeat to Chelsea, despite being 2-0 ahead. It leaves Spurs 11th in the English Premier League table. No doubt a warm welcome awaits the Australian at Ibrox on Thursday. To rugby now, and Glasgow Warriors got their Champions Cup campaign off to a convincing start on Saturday, and assistant coach Nigel Carolan says they are now relishing the fact that they're no longer considered underdogs. The Warriors were 38-19 winners over Sale Sharks at Scotstoun, with a first half hat-trick from George Horne stealing the show. This remarkable second, a particular standout as well, as the home side raced into a convincing lead and eventually secured the bonus point win. Incredible stuff. But next up is a trip to take on Toulon, who themselves picked up an impressive opening win against the Stormers in South Africa.
David and Goliath is a term that's been kind of thrown around as a metaphor for the underdog, and I think when we've fronted up in games, I think maybe some, up until now we've been regarded as the underdog, but we've proven now already that we can beat anybody. So we don't see ourselves as the underdog anymore, and I think it's probably flipped on its head. I think any team that ever comes to play against us, they talk about how dangerous we're going to be, and but we know that's in our control, and it's something that we got to put onto the pitch every week.
And before I go as well, Laura, some snooker news. The Scottish Open has got started today. Good start for John Higgins. He got past Ian Burns in his first round match through at Meadowbank in Edinburgh.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Liz.
Thank you.
OK, now let's go over to Ben Phillip to find out what's happening on the 9 on the BBC Scotland channel later.
Tonight, we'll have all the latest from Syria, one day on from the fall of President Assad's regime. We'll hear from Syrians living in Scotland. We'll also fill you in on this year's Golden Globe Awards and the Scots among this year's contenders. And we'll hear from a band of academics and musicians using songs to tell the radical history of Glasgow. See you at 9.
And just before we head to the weather, hit Netflix series Baby Reindeer has picked up 4 nominations at the upcoming Golden Globe Awards, including its Scottish creator Richard Gadd, who's up for the Best Actor in a Limited Series category. Other Scots nominated are Borders actor Jack Lowden for his role in spy drama Slow Horses, and Ewan McGregor also received a nod for his role in A Gentleman in Moscow. Lots of Scottish talent on show there, and more Scottish talent here at the weather map for us tonight. Callum McCall.
Beautiful scene here.
Beautiful, yeah.
Been to Loch Morlich before?
Yes, I have, a long time ago, but it looks stunning. I shall go again.
Yeah, although I wouldn't recommend dipping your toes into that water there. They might fall off with the cold there, and lots of snow over the Cairngorms in the wake of Dara. But also, we've seen a build of pressure, and it's going to stay that way over the coming days. Winter sunshine to enjoy. There will be some areas of cloud and some areas of fog too that will be really stubborn to clear. If you had your atmospheric barometers out today, they'll be reading very high. There's some pressure readings. 1045 millibars recorded at Strathallan earlier. That's not a record for the month of December. In fact, you have to go back to 1926. I remember it well, just shy of 1052 millibars in Wick. So we were a wee bit off that. This area of high pressure sticking around over the coming days. Around the top of it, though, occasionally weak fronts will give thicker cloud, milder conditions to the western Northern Isles, perhaps the odd spot of light rain or drizzle. This evening, still got that North Sea cloud sheet in the east. Gradually it'll break up, but it'll likely continue to feed into the southeast throughout the night. Elsewhere, with the clear skies turning cold, a widespread frost that's already -6 at Tyndrum could go towards -10. Widely though sub-zero for us, and some freezing fog patches too. Where they occur, they'll be really slow to clear tomorrow. In fact, they might not clear at all. Maybe most likely into the Clyde Valley, Glasgow. If you're stuck under that fog, temperatures really struggling to recover. They may not get above 0, 1 at a push. But away from that fog, there's some cheery winter sunshine. Not doing much for the temperature though, 1 to 4 degrees Celsius inland Highland Glens after such a cold night. Again, struggling above 0. Much milder though, 8 degrees here, the Western Isles. Some thicker cloud, most prevalent for the Northern Isles though, where it could give some drizzle, breezier conditions. Tomorrow, away from those milder northern peripheries, it's clear, it's cold, again a widespread frost, and the fog will tend to re-expand, giving a foggy start for some of us again Wednesday, particularly parts of the central lowlands, the Clyde Valley. Again, it may not shift all day. Away from it though, you'll have some sunshine, but again, it's cold away from, once again, the milder western and northern Isles with some thicker cloud here at times. Rinse and repeat for Thursday, but then thicker cloud at times Friday onwards, may give some patchy rain, and then milder by Sunday. That's you up to date, the weather front.
Thank you, Callum. Now tonight's main news again. The Labour leader of Edinburgh City Council, Cammy Day, resigns over allegations of inappropriate behaviour. After more than a decade of civil war, Syrians in Scotland celebrate the end of the Assad regime. And a section of the aircraft from the Lockerbie bombing is being transported to America ahead of a Libyan suspect's trial in Washington, D.C. And that is Reporting Scotland. I'll have your late news at 10:30. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.